Heavenly Father, Mother God, whose presence is heaven, whose presence is real and always the presence of love. We give thanks for your glory, your light, your grace. We give thanks that in your mind, all you can think is love. And we ask you to help us surrender to your love. Help us to get over our opinions about ourselves and others. Help us to drop all such defenses and tensions, judgments. None of this is even real, our thoughts and opinions. This is our conjuring, our trying to cope with feeling so afraid, alone, separate from your love. Guide us, remind us that we cannot be separate from your love, your presence. Let us see this glory. Help us lift the veils off of our eyes so that we can see the truth of God here and now, in each and every day, in each and every one of us, and help us to have the courage to live accordingly with one another. And so it is.
Please join me in reading our mission statement, which you can find on this white card. Together we say, the Global Center for Christ Consciousness is a spiritual center for students and masters on the spiritual path. We are dedicated to awakening the inner Christ and to creating a world of love, peace, joy, and abundance. And now for our sacred reading. From White Eagle. It is true that wisdom comes from heaven as a result of your reaching upward to higher planes of heavenly understanding. And wisdom says that bitter and painful experiences grow more painful if you allow them to disturb you emotionally and mentally. You all have to learn to lay them on one side. You have to learn to forget everything except the love of the Son of God. Think of the Son of God as pure light and love. There is nothing to fear when you are attached to the center, the perfect jewel, the Christ heart. And so it is.
Good morning. Can you give me a pen from the back of the chair so I can write the requests? Thank you. Blessings to you all. Thanks for joining us today. If you're a guest, we especially thank you for being here online or in person. We have quite a wonderful, extraordinary experience here. Just a lot of folks that are just, it's very unique, our experience here at the Global Center. It's, you know, when people ask, you, or when you're sharing with people, oh, wow, I went to this center this morning, and they ask, what is it? It's going to be tempting to say it's a building or it's a center. There's this guy, this teacher. Try to include yourself when you talk about this experience. Try to talk about how we do something unique. Talk about how we are sharing and laughing and loving and, whatever else it is. Get used to that idea. It's not a person. I mean, it is on one illusionary level, but since that's an illusion, why emphasize it? The we is far more brilliant, far more important. And that's how to think of it. That's how I think of it. I think of the brilliant questions you ask and the sharing that we do and the love and the eyes that you meet with one another and the hugs and the sincerity and all this. I mean, that's what's on my mind. I don't think I could just go, can't wait to be brilliant on Sunday. It's my brain can't think of it that way. I think of this thing is what's brilliant, this experience that we've chosen. And more of the world is going to go in this direction. And it is going in this direction. But let me ask you, what would you like me to talk about today?
Oneness with everything.
Pardon?
Oneness with everything.
Okay.
Unconditional love. Joy.
What was the one before? Death. And then?
Non-resistance.
Non-resistance. Okay.
Giving grace and respect to boundaries.
Giving or living?
Giving.
Okay. Hold on one sec. Hold on one sec. Good. And what was the one over there? Mary. Okay, that's good. Thank you. Okay. As always, a huge variety and all beautiful. Remember that people are asking, and the people online, I don't want to read the whole list, but it involves things like joy and death, unconditional love, oneness, courage, etc. So, and mirroring and so on. But, let's own these things. If somebody asks about talking about death, let's say, let's understand that's not their request, that's our request. Back to that I was talking about. Think about that. Hearing something, experiencing something, this isn't a lecture, this is an experience. I could be talking about whatever, and believe it or not, there are multidimensional things happening here. But not in the weird sense. Like some people, it's, forced upon people, like some sort of woo-woo experience. It isn't. This is us surrendering to the love of God. Keep that in mind. It's not like we're just looking for special effects, multidimensional man. During the talk, I was like leaving my body. No, I'd like you to learn to be here. I would actually like you to be here. And if you do leave your body, that's cool. Go, that was so profound, I left my body. Then ask yourself, I wonder why I left my body when something profound happened. Because usually you jump out of your body when you're startled, scared, intimidated, overwhelmed. It's not bad to leave your body. But I'm saying a lot of times it's overwhelm and we dissociate. So we want to practice not just ascension, we want to practice inscension. We want the ascension to become an internalized experience, a full experience. We want to see people, their cells turning to light. Not can't wait to be out of this body, this terrible place. You're describing yourself as a tomb, which is not very dateable, first of all. But if I was your child, I wouldn't want to go, hi, kids at school. My mom's in the PTA. My mom's a tomb. She's a living, walking tomb. I wouldn't, it's not a good vibe. You want to be here. You want to be alive, but not caught up in it. It's like saying, I don't care what dimension I'm in, I'm going to be fully alive. It's not purposefully 3D only. It's no, anywhere I am. Here or beyond. I'm just, yeah. Jesus says, when you see me, you see the Father. Like, there's just no separation between the two. And that is our choice. That's our will to be alive, fully alive. One of you asked about oneness. Oneness is not something we just achieve one day. It's something to experience every day, but not just for yourself and God. How can I bring a sense of oneness to others? And when you share kindness to people, it looks like an act of kindness. Now, if in your head you're thinking about kindness as a linear thing, then that's what you're bringing to the world, a linear act of kindness, which is not bad. But it's another level when you bring a level of kindness with an intention of oneness. The reason I'm being kind to you is not because I am bestowing kindness upon you, mere mortal. It's, how could I not be? Like when I do things like an extra tip to somebody, in a, what do you call it, restaurant or something, and, sometimes if I have extra, I give extra, and sometimes, like, oh my God, are you sure? My statement is, yes. You are so lucky to have me as your customer today. My attitude is, don't you deserve it? You know, right? Well, of course, yeah, extra. Real? Are you sure? Yes, you deserve it. Meaning what? You served me well? All I eat is a tortilla and cheese. Everything that I ingest is a form of pizza in a different shape. It's just all the same. It doesn't matter. It's all the same. It's always got the same ingredients. Some sort of flour or butter and cheese. It's just kind of the same. That's true. It's just generally what I eat. So to me, am I saying you deserve it because you got my cheese right? No, you deserve it. Why? And you don't have to explain everything. You need to know their deservability. You are being the presence of God when you help people remember their value. It's not all in the, grandiose statement. You don't have to show up, at whatever grocery, store or restaurant in some like wizard outfit to make them know that you are seeing their goodness. Just in here, they can feel it. Like, what? Wow, there's something about that person. Kindness, constantly kindness wherever you can. But it isn't an act of kindness as we describe it, an act. It's not an act at all. It's not an act in that it's fake, and it's not an act in that it's an action. It's a statement. It's a consciousness. This whole concept of higher dimensionality, it has to be lived here. Think about this. You can't go to, like, let's say, the fifth dimension while holding issues with the third dimension. And there's sins of commission, which means you commit a sin. I'm just using standard terminology for it. I'm not telling you that I believe in the standard sinners and all that, but the concept. There's sins of commitment. There are mistakes we made that are committed mistakes. I did something. Oops. There are something called sins of omission, which are goods that you could have done and didn't. So what keeps us from doing those things? Well, I'm afraid they might get mad if I did something. I don't have the money. Or, I get it. And stay within your beliefs, of course. But can you stretch them a little bit? That's what your relationship with God is about. It's not going black and white. It's not just, I'm a sinner. Oh, look, I'm suddenly a mystic. You transmute all of this. You have to bring it. So you don't go to I don't know what the heck it is with people. My friend sold me this herb that takes you to the fifth dimension. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Oh, no, they said, and they go there all the time. They're just taking acid. It's not taking you anywhere. It doesn't work. You can't not be of the third dimension if you're attached in any way, meaning committing things and also the omissions, right? You see what I'm saying? You got to want to be here. You got to want to show up. You have to understand the deservability of everybody. I am amongst God's children is the attitude. Oh, yes, I'm very clear that they don't always remember. So how can I help remind them today? That's your work. How can I? Well, it's not going to be getting up on a soapbox and preaching it to them. It's how do you, first of all, the shortcut, if there's one, ask God to help you. Help me to see them as you see them. That just, boom, tightens up the learning curve right away. Okay, got it. Boom. Instead of, well, maybe 15 lifetimes with my ex, we should be able to figure it out. I mean, if you want to do that, that's okay, but that's called an attraction to hell. Why are you even remotely attracted to hell? Oh, no, I want to drag this on a long, long time. Why? There's only the now. Right? There's only the now. My craziness of the past keeps producing a screwed up future. I don't remember any mystic saying, this is my goal. Screwed up past, promising me a screwed up future. It's no, the now. And the now is everything you believe you were. Right now, I have a different message, but not a preachy message. The message is in consciousness. I believe in you. That kind of thought in your mind. You deserve, and it goes on from there. And one of you is asking about things like even giving grace. That's how you do it. You don't bestow it because then you're separate from them. You don't bestow it. Even when you're giving blessings on people, there must not be an attitude of, I'm a light worker. I went to school. I have a certificate that says light worker 10, level 3 light worker. And people would say to me, Michael, can you train people? Well, we have our mentoring class on Wednesday, every other Wednesday. And that's sort of like that. But no, when people say, can you mentor? I have people that and it's not a problem to ask. I'd love you ask for sure. But what I'm saying is, and I'll say yes once in a while. But the point is, people will say to me, they're going to throw 10 grand at me to mentor them. Here's what I say. Go to YouTube. There's hundreds of videos for free. You don't need to give me 10 grand. Now, what a ridiculous dude I am. You could be scoring all kinds of money. No, that's not going to be my style. That's like lying. You can go to YouTube and study it all right there. Now, if there's something more, okay, let me know, because I will try to help everyone in every way I can. And we all could do a little more thinking like that. But we often associate a lack of faith. When you think of a lack of faith, you usually think about I don't have faith in God. Literally, atheist or agnostic. But sometimes even when you waver a little bit, what are you about? Where's the oneness you're asking about? Right? Where's the oneness? I must lack faith in God. Or you get a little scared about something, financial, let's say. Oh, I've been struggling with faith in God. This is kind of funny to me because we actually think of lack of faith as being related to God. The truth is, our lack of faith is in ourselves. People that think they lack faith in God, think about God. Now, God's not going, oh my God, oh my me. I feel hurt feelings. You're lacking faith in me. Now, if you have a couple and somebody's lacking faith in the other, or you lack faith in your children's ability to get through an issue, there's hurt feelings. You didn't trust me that I would be able to pull that off. An employee didn't get trusted by, wasn't trusted by the boss, etc. Feelings can get hurt. God doesn't have that. So God isn't actually hurting over mankind's lack of it. God knows what it is. You know what's missing? We don't remember who we are. So it seems like we're lacking faith in God, but we're actually lacking faith in ourselves. But this gets trickier because then we project it onto God. No, I don't have I have a lack of faith in God. You think that would be the one we wouldn't want to admit. No. We actually want to because then we can blame it on God when things aren't happening. You wouldn't have any problems if you knew who you are. And the more you know who you are, the less problems you have. It's our identity. The I am within me. God already knows what it is. So instead of God, I struggle not having faith. God will hear you and God will say, love you. Okay, but God's going to say, but if you really want my opinion, turn your eyes around, look at yourself. You're the one you don't believe in. There's this tricky psychological thing we do. When you lack faith in other people's divinity, that's where you're acting out your lack of faith in God. When you lack your own, you're lacking God. Don't think it's all just about God. God's fine. God's saying, why don't you look at your relationships with yourself and each other? That's where you're showing your signs of your lack of faith in divinity, period. Just divinity. And it's there, if you would but lift the veils, Buddha said, to see it. So we have a thinking problem. We have a spiritual psychological illness. It's a virus. And we've passed it to each other. And we've done this for generations, obviously, for not hundreds of years, not thousands, not tens, not even hundreds of thousands. Since the beginning of time, billions of years ago, it started. And we just kept dropping it down into consciousness to individual beings that were starting to splinter off, becoming the human race and races throughout other galaxies and systems. This separation. Some fell further than others. Even if you say, not me, I'm fifth dimensional, you're still dimensional. You're still in dementia. It doesn't matter how you dress it up. You wear, people in the fifth dimension they wear purple. Great. Why are you still in the color spectrum? Our destiny is pure light, just pure awareness. And we're still here, grinding to get little things right. If I could only get, like at my house, if somebody sends a package or something, it always ends up at the neighbor's. I can't, if we could only get the post office person to deliver it to the right address. The if onlys, if only I didn't catch cold anymore, if only, that actually is a test of your faith in yourself, not God. Because when you say, God, I would love to feel prosperous, God's like, you were made completely abundant. So, okay, so it is. But then why isn't it happening? It isn't that God didn't bestow it. We were made with that consciousness. We sabotaged the consciousness. We have to ask for our own healing. Is that making sense? So what's one of the problems is it's called identifying. You know how people say you identify as this or that, gay or straight, black or white, or whatever it happens to be. You're identifying. It's a good word they're starting to use, even though it's misused. How do you identify? If somebody says, how do you identify? Your head's going to come up with answers that people are used to. There's only two answers. I am spirit as God created me, or I'm a mortal, a human being. Now, some of you are like, I totally love my humanness. Okay, well, listen, you're still ill. Just listen. If you're a human being, your mortality, your human mortal self, mortal means subject to death. You cannot die, your real self. Identify as a human, you're identifying with a limited being. Identify with spirit, and now you're unlimited. When you think that you can die, you're identifying with your mortal self. When you think you can be sick, I'm not saying be in denial of these things. I'm saying there's one part of us has created this as our reality. I can be sick. I can die. I can lack money. I can, whatever it happens to be, feel upset about something. That is not your divine self. You're misidentifying. What we need to learn to do is, I am a spiritual being having the human experience temporarily. Or are you a human being who has glimpses of spirit once in a while? Which one do you want to identify with? It's one or the other. They're mutually exclusive. You can't completely be spiritual and mortal, because this one wouldn't allow consciousness that is destructive, addiction, limiting belief systems. Now, I'm not saying that you must make yourself completely identify with spirit. What you do is you bring spirit to the mortal and bring the mortal to the spirit. You don't try to live exclusively one or the other while on earth. It would be harmful, even though it sounds blissful, to live completely spirit. You got bills to pay, put air in your tires, don't forget fuel in your car, etc. Take care of 3D things over here. But don't do them thinking it makes you more spiritual. Don't do them from the place of fear. Don't let fear motivate your decisions. Instead, oh my God, that's so beautiful that Spirit's reminding me to put fuel in the car. That's my alignment with God taking care of me. Oh, great, a flu coming on. I'm reminded to get more rest. That Spirit influencing you all the way to the mortal level. It's beautiful. But what humans do is one or the other, and if you start birthing a spiritual conscience, you start feeling bad for this other one still being there. Because every time you need a hug, you're misidentifying. Who's the you that needs a hug? Well, I'll just be much more happy if what? And you name any of the lists go on and on about things you want to do as a mortal. I want to eat. You don't even have a body. You're dreaming that you're in a body. You can't eat. It doesn't do anything. It fills my stomach. You don't have a stomach. But if I can say, oh, wait, reminder to myself, I am a spiritual being. I'm going to go ahead and have a human experience and eat. But if I'm identifying with spirit, the food turns to light. You follow? Whatever you do. hug, sex, whatever you do. Dancing, whatever, play music, whatever it happens to be. Write a song, write a poem, etc. It can be done from you, and you're identifying with your human self when you're embellishing, making important your thinking, your emotions, and your physical experiences. And I understand those things are seemingly fancy, but they're only fancy to a broken person. Only a fallen person actually thinks there's much value in your thinking, your emotions, and or your physical experiences. But if you're into any of those, one or more of those, it's mutually exclusive. The more you identify with yourself as a human mortal, the less you are affirming that you're spirit. I know that sounds bizarre, but it's true. The more you think, feel, act this one, the more you're denying this one. And that's not an accident. You didn't accidentally do it. Your ego, when our ego is in control, it's constantly trying to get us to not identify with our true self. Get over here. Get over here. Hold on a minute, I'm meditating. No, get over here. Oh, you're meditating, huh? Is your back hurting now? Because you've been sitting in that stinking lotus position for an hour now. Starting to feel it, aren't you? Boom, identifying with, oh my God. I got to think twice about meditating. It hurts. Some people, I get a headache when I meditate. Right. Anything. It's going to get you to try to go over here. Some people say, well, I can't get quiet for very long because a rush of old emotions comes up. It's just temptation to distract you. Jesus fasts for 40 days and 40 nights in the proverbial desert and literal desert. When he comes out of this, we're hearing what happens to him. 40 days, 40 nights. He's a spiritual being having a fasting experience in the desert. So what happens? The ego, evil, devil, whatever you want to think it is, shows up and says, hey, how you doing? Pretty good. Kind of hungry though, aren't you? Come on, be honest. Come on. Right? You're feeling it, right? Right about now, wouldn't it be nice to have a pizza? And I'd be like, I failed my test. I wouldn't have, but he offered Domino's. So it's not my fault. God, why didn't you protect me from Domino's, the temptation? This is what we do. And God's like, I have nothing to do with this. That's what was meant by, I can offer you bread. You're hungry, aren't you? Come on. The humans, come on. Just be, Jesus, why don't you own your human self? There's nothing wrong with that. After all, come on. This is what we hear in conversations. You have to embrace your human this and that and the other. There's nothing wrong with recognizing what's happening on the human level. I'm talking about whether you get hooked by it. So it's one thing for Jesus to say, I recognize I'm feeling an ache in here. It's called human hunger. Watch what happens. There's this human hunger. Ego shows up. Did I hear hunger? Lack of some kind? You know what you need? Bread, food. Jesus responds not with, wow, you're not such a bad guy after all. You provided me what I think I need. Like in Jesus Christ Superstar when he says to Mary Magdalene, look at her. She's trying to bring me what I need right here and now. All of you guys are hanging around thinking, talking as guys, like, hey, we ought to measure that cross, or whatever. The way, you're approaching everything from that standpoint. She's willing to offer me what I need right here and now. Comfort, affection. But in the Jesus story in the desert, here's food. And he has to pause. Remember, I recognize I'm feeling hungry, but he's not going to identify with it. He sees it's a thought coming up. That's normal. This ego self tempts, what you need is food. His answer is, good one. Oh, that was good. Empty stomach, food, fills stomach, 1 + 1 = 2. It's simple math there. And he says, but it doesn't. In higher math, it's different. It's, you don't even exist. I don't have a problem, and you don't have a solution. That's why he said, we live by the word of God, which means you are the word of God. In the beginning was the word means in the beginning was Christ, God's children, and God, God's children lived as one with God. So the children are called the word of God. So the children of God can live by the word by remembering who they are, the word. You don't get fed by food, by remembrance. Like the saying, time seems to go by fast when you're having fun. Similar. When you're in the right consciousness, it really is true that things don't bother you as much. You don't crave as much. But it doesn't mean you're wrong or bad when you crave. No, Jesus saw it. He really saw what's happening. But he knew it was coming from his belief that he's hungry. He overrode the I feel hungry with, and now I'm full. So now what does the bread have to offer? Think about this. If you only have $10 and you dropped it on the street somewhere by accident, you've lost everything. But if you have $1 trillion at home, how bothered are you by the $10 you lost? So Jesus, as soon as he went from empty stomach, offering food, not empty, full, in my consciousness, the food became nothing. The bread, you see what I mean? And when that same ego said, okay, the bread thing's not working, huh? And the bread is anything. It's anything you think you're craving or needing in your life. I know I would be happier if only I had a job, if only I had a partner, if only, et cetera, et cetera. I get it. It could be a car. It could seem more important or a bigger issue than some of the ones other people might have. But it is 100% yours, and it hurts. So don't brush it off, but don't falsely feed it. Recognize it. Wow. I'm feeling alone a lot lately. That's an empty stomach, you see? It's all a metaphor. What is your emptiness today? Well, I recognize this, but I accept that it's not really that. It's much bigger. This is a test for me. And the person out there dangling the proverbial dollar, job, sex, affection, whatever else it happens to be, get behind me, Satan. Don't say that, Somebody says, you look like you need a hug. Get behind me, Satan. That's a little much. But, and one of you asked about courage. This is what real courage is about. It's to face these things. And not just to face them, that's half of it. To face that they aren't real. It's one thing to say, I do feel hungry, but I'm going to fight it because I'm fasting. Yeah, man. And then you start sweeping the floor and cleaning the house, and that's distracting. Can you sit still and still say, I'm fine? You see? When you say, I always feel alone, but a miracle happened. I bought a dog. And now I have a companion, it's a friend, and no, that's a distraction. Name the dog distraction. Give me a little distraction. Wow, distraction's growing bigger than I thought he was going to grow, And then distractions always leave a mess. But anyway, think about it, and it's not just I see what's happening. What they're offering is mirroring, you asked about mirroring, is mirroring what's going on in here. Wow. This, especially if you see a pattern, like 5 times this month, people were offering to date you or a new job that is unhealthy people, but it's money. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm saying when you see these things show up, remember, say yes to them off the top of your head, straight away. You're probably bargaining yourself away. You haven't sat with it. What is this really? This is something that can fulfill your pocketbook and create misery. What is this really going on here? Just look at that metaphor of Jesus in the desert. And he wasn't just tempted with bread. Remember, he's also tempted. He's tempted a few times in the desert, each representing different lower chakras that he's purging, clearing. But one of them was power. I'll make you the king over the whole planet. It's never been done. So there you are, man. You're so powerful, Jesus. Wow. Brilliant, intuitive, clear thinking, masterful. We'll make you king over the whole planet. And the only person that even came close to that was Alexander the Great. And even he was inadvertently thinking, this is how you create oneness so that everybody can know God. But his guidance was, I'm sorry, but that's not going to work. It's not going to happen. King David tried to even make it happen just in Jerusalem, just in Israel. And God told him, the real kingdom is of spirit. But leaders like those great individuals were thinking the obvious, the logical. Well, if you want to create oneness on the earth, you create what Alexander did. Let's unify all the languages. You see what I'm saying? He's doing it externally. Let's unify people. Let's unify the library of Alexandria. Let's let everybody have the ability. Charlemagne, another great. He's like, let's teach people, everybody, how to read so they can read and not be told what the Bible says. Give power to everybody. It makes total sense. But Spirit keeps telling us, you and your family members, and you're waiting for that to be unified, which sounds beautiful. Alexander's world, David's Israel, etc. But remember, he's telling you it isn't going to happen the way you're hoping. You're using your intellect to decide what you think God should be doing here. I remember a shaman, a brilliant dude, man. My dad wasn't, human dad, he wasn't really into spirituality, but he did have an open mind to some of it. And I remember I told him, there's this psychic. He's a shaman, but I used another word for it. I said, there's this psychic. And would you do a reading? And he said, sure, And so this guy did a reading and told him all kinds of things nobody could have known. I mean, details. So one of them was, he said, you have a brother? He's like, well, yeah, he does, because I knew my uncle. He said, no, there's another one. There's another brother. And my dad just, because it's never been discussed. Nobody knew that he had this brother that was disowned 40 years ago or whatever it was at the time. And he said, and you're trying to find him and bring him back into the family, and it will not happen. And my dad felt very disheartened, but he told him it's not going to happen. So my dad was in a false way thinking, I could make my family so much more normal, happy, and functional if we all got together. No, you're not even happy or functional. And you're trying to make everybody get in their positions so that there's a better life. And I'm saying this to some of you in the room, obviously, and online. There's things you're trying to fix, and take a breath. It might come together, it might not. Don't be attached to it, but just know this. Almost everything you try to do on this plane doesn't work. Motivational talk today. Nothing you ever do will ever help you in any way. Amen. And so it is. Yes, Jesus, 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 Jesus. Yeah. And that's the good news, right? Nothing you do is going to, now, because what we're saying, look at the people of Israel. Look at how they thought Jesus, even his closest friends, thought he was actually going to go into Jerusalem, be handed a crown by the Pharisees, put into position as the king of Israel to replace David, who was the king of kings of Israel. And that's why they keep referencing Jesus is from the lineage of David. Okay, but they expected him to put on a crown and tell the Romans to get out and free the Israelites. And he could only hint once in a while, it's not going to happen in the way you're thinking. Now remember, but they're intent on thinking that, so they're scratching their head going, whatever he's saying, I will not allow it to make sense because I already have my mind made up what I want him to do. And that's especially what Judas got caught up into. Not at all a bad person, just a human. But he had assumptions. I believe Jesus is going to free us. That's a nice sentiment. And he's going to do so by being put up. So he turns him into the Pharisees thinking that he's going to be put up as a king. When he heard he's been arrested, the word arrest, when he heard he's on trial, not he's being crowned, that broke his heart. And it overwhelmed him and he killed himself. And, that's tragic. But this is us. When we falsely invest on something being something that it can't be, especially if what you want it to be is 3D. You keep this world will only be able to fail you. It's a lie to say that I'm identifying as a human being. You can't, because you're not. You're a spiritual being temporarily having a 3D experience. You just put it on. But usually after Halloween, you stop being Napoleon. Usually you're no longer, Wonder Woman the next day. Usually you take off the outfit and whatever, right? I mean, you stop. It's kind of scary if somebody goes, I'm still Casper. It's kind of weird. It's dangerous. And that's mental illness, isn't it? But that's what humans keep doing. They keep identifying with the creepy human self that they put on when we thought we separated, and we keep wearing it. And you can't go very long without that costume, which is called reincarnation. You get to the other side, you're semi-lighter, a little bit, but you still come back. I got to have another costume. I want to go in as an abandoned woman. Yeah, I got to try that costume on. Instead of every year a different costume, it's every lifetime a different costume. But your spirit, your true self is like, seriously? And it's just pulled by the ego self going, come on, it'll be better this time. It never is. And it can't be because it's a world of death. It's a world of limitation. I know there's rainbows and cute things once in a while, but that's just so we don't get too suspicious that everything's so messed up. Jeez. Yeah. So, a fruit tree produces fruit, right? You don't go, I'm looking at my apple tree and I don't know why it's not producing squash. It won't. It won't. You're looking at a person who's never been faithful and you're going, I just thought I could change him. What? Like, what are you thinking? Which is what they tell you on the other side when you get back. But what were you thinking? Go back and do it again. It's a fruit tree. But then there's specific types. There's pomegranate and, whatever else, right? Yeah, you're like, don't try to come up with those because I don't eat that stuff typically. But there's one that I found not so bad. Tried it recently. I keep calling it an avocado, and it isn't. Is it an apricot? No? Anyway. It's one of these things. And I don't know what to call it. I get the name wrong. So anyway, there's not only fruit trees versus non-fruit trees, pine trees, but there's fruit trees that are specific fruit. What do you expect to come from that fruit tree? Well, there's two ways you can know the fruit tree. You can either go by your assumptions. I swore I was waiting for apples and it kept producing pears, and get all upset about it. There's assuming you know the tree and you know yourself and you know others. And then there's knowing. I know it's an apple tree, and now guess what? I don't have hurt feelings because I know what it's going to produce. It would not be sane for me to sit there looking at an apple tree. Still has the card, apple tree. And I'm going, I thought it was going to give me pears. And tree, you're letting me down. And then you have to write an ode to the tree. Oh tree, I thought apple thee. And then, but all you gave me was a pair of problems. But that's what you do with human beings. There's 3 ways you can know somebody. There's the things you see with your eyes, their actions and words, which you think that makes sense. I'll just go by what I see. But that's only the ego seeing the ego. There's another level. Ask questions. If you don't know, call the stinking nursery. Not where they were born, your partners. The tree nursery. It has this kind of flower, this kind of leaf. Oh, that's an apple tree. Oh, no wonder. I keep thinking it's out and something else is being produced. No wonder. You ask questions. Ask people, what are you about? Well, I'm not really dating right now. No, but I want you to go out with me. Yeah, but I'm not really dating right now. Yeah, but you haven't tried me yet. But I'm not really going out. I'm not really interested. No, I think that's your ego talking. You really need to, see? Ask questions and do your best to let their word be what you reflect back to them. Okay, I hear you. It's no, I get it. Apples, it's apples. Pears, it's... Do what makes sense, but ask questions. Ask, what are you about? Don't tell your kids that they're supposed to be a certain career. Find out. What are they about? What do you like doing? One of the times one of my children, this is back when she was teens, having a major meltdown about how everything in her life goes so poorly. She just can't really do much 3D. And I try this and it doesn't go. I try this, it doesn't go well. I don't know how I fit in, which is actually very sad that people feel that way, but it makes sense that they would in a crazy world that produces no good answers to who they are. So I was really feeling it because I was borrowing the office at their house where they live with their mom. And I could hear this wailing, crying, screaming from one floor and the full distance of the house away. And I'm like, what is that? Maybe it's an Irish banshee coming to get me. But eventually I got up and I walked in and I'm getting closer and closer to this crying. And I go in, what's going on? And she tells me that stuff there. And always ask, what would you have me say? Even a child that you've so much heart into seeing them in pain, don't think you know anything. Don't think you know what kind of tree it is. Find out. Ask questions. Now, the third option of knowing someone is ask God. Because God will give you the view of them completely unrelated to the 3D world. So I say to God, what do you want me to do here? Oh, I'm going to go back to step 2 and ask questions. Who in this world do you admire most? And she started naming these crazy film directors, the most abstract, bizarre movie directors. And then, do you see any common theme between them? No. And she's struggling for breath and, all that. And I'm saying, no, look, they're all totally eccentric. Do you think any of them could actually go to high school with their little backpacks and their stinking geometry books in back, wearing down their thoracic at 10, Do you think those people did that? Do you think they just could conform to whatever classes the world produces and says, go and memorize this information and you're going to be wonderful? No, these are abstract thinkers. And I said, that's exactly you. So you're already as bizarre as the people you love. So you're not connecting, you're connecting with your tribe. Own that. You're not as far off as you thought. See, anytime we can hear what's really going on in a person's heart and soul, God can help us connect with that and bring real solutions, real answers, effective answers, solutions. This, one of you mentioned, that's unconditional love. Unconditional love isn't something you do just because you're in lotus position. It isn't something you do just because you wear a crystal and, whatever, and talk very breathy. I'm so unconditionally loving. Prove it. Unconditional love means you're there for people. It doesn't just mean unconditional love is a thing of forgiving people when they do something you don't like. Unconditional love is what makes me want to help you at all. Unconditional love. And unconditional love also doesn't mean that you're being hurt in some way. Unconditional love is not the person who's the doormat. Don't confuse those things. So we can't be assuming that we know who anybody is. Ask them questions. Well, tell me about yourself. I mean, my God, if I were you, I wouldn't date without a trillion questions. But not like, well, not like that. I'm talking about you should want to get to know people. I think it's beautiful. What are your beliefs? What are your thoughts? What are your fears? And when they say things like, well, no, I don't really know you well enough to tell you my fears, no problem. I'm already done. I mean, that's me though. I'm way too busy to like, okay, well, could you in 6 years, would you be willing to tell me about your heart, your soul? It's like, no, I'm just there. And those of you who've had private sessions, you know that I don't talk 10 different sessions with you before we get around to getting somewhere. It's like unconditional love is so attractive that when it shows up, people want to be near it. Like this center. People want to be near it. They can still project garbage. They can still get confused because they're not used to it. But that's our destiny, man, to be the presence of God even here. People will not translate from this world into some higher dimension automatically. You don't just go somewhere else. You grow somewhere else. You grow. You let this world go. As you less attached to this world, you're automatically becoming more identified with your spiritual self. It's beautiful if you think about it. You know, in my life, do people even know me? It's really strange because we sit like this with each other and every Sunday and we're classes and I mean, I'm pretty much an open book. But still people, even when you tell them about you, they understand, they have already made up their mind. No, you just don't get it. You know, they're telling you about you. Would you do this? No, that's not my thing. Oh, no, you just don't get it. I mean, people will, look at me and say, oh, I hear you don't like eat typical foods, but that's because you haven't tried it yet. You need to try sushi. And I'm already thinking, I'm like, thank you. Inside, I'm like, but on the outside, I'm like, oh, thank you, beloved. Peace be with you. I appreciate your care. Inside, I'm like, God, there's not a chance, not a snowball's chance in hell. But it's kind of you, but listen to me. No, don't offer. Don't bring me a lunch bag, for the teacher with apples and whatever these things are that you eat. Don't bring me a bag of your stuff. Not literally and not metaphysically, not metaphorically. But if someone really knows me, it's interesting. Judy had one of her estate sales this weekend, and this lady was checking out, and I was standing up there by the door, and she said, "Aren't you some sort?" I'm like, "Oh, aren't you some kind of a spiritual?" Yeah, but I don't talk about that. And I said, I don't go and hand out cards to bring people here. You know what I mean? I think it's cool if you can tell there's something about me. That takes extra work. Handing out cards, I'm a spiritual leader. Like I'm running for mayor and kissing babies. I don't believe in that. I don't believe in that at all. But if you can have people going, there's something about them, without you telling them something, right? That's pretty amazing. But I like this because this lady was saying, aren't you? And I say, yeah. She's going, but yeah, you're some sort of a pastor or whatever. I go, yeah. But I said, just keep it just, I don't talk about that. I'm here volunteering to be helpful at this place. And she said, okay. She goes, you're good. You're a good soul. And I said, thank you. How does she know that? She doesn't know that she's not projecting it because of the role. She has to see it on some other level. Now, do people see that in you? Do they just know you're a bit different? Do they know you're kinder or more patient? Now, I'm not putting pressure on you. I'm saying that is going to inevitably come to you and to all of us, and it'll grow more and more and more. In my life, if people say, well, I know Michael, If you know me, one of the characteristics about me, one of my deepest, most personal patterns is standing by people. Stand up for your real self, but stand up for other people's real self. Even when they forget who they are, try to know it and affirm it when they forget. Don't try to force it on them, but just know, believe in them when they don't. But absolutely, man, religions make it a habit to ostracize people if they don't follow their dogma. But you just gave up on someone. You just tossed out a child of God. And based upon they don't agree with our philosophy. Now, mind you, I would do the same thing here. Not because you disagree. I don't know what any of you believe in. Some of you might pray to this being and that. I don't care. If I hear you're doing human sacrifice, no. There's a point where I draw a line. I don't mind you differing, but if you're being hurtful, not here. You see? And I could counsel a hurtful person. I wouldn't kick them out. But if they're hurting you, they're gone. Because I can handle more than everyone else might be able to. So I always go to the default of taking care of people as best I can. Not in a rescuer kind of way, but if anybody knows me, man, they know. If I see a struggle, I don't even care what they believe in. If I see a group of people trying to verbally or physically harm someone, I'm going with them. Because you're being hateful. Not because I asked them their opinion and I said, well, let me think. Yeah, I agree with them. I don't care. I'm just going to, by default, go and stand with that person. I've seen it happen when a group of people were going to attack a friend of mine in high school, an African-American dude, and some group was going to, and I said, I'll stand with you, man. And our friends are like, what are you, crazy? You could get killed. I don't care. Someone's got to stand with him. One time I was walking in the streets in the city, and I heard this guy yelling for his life, man. He was running down the street, very frantic, side to side, running. Stores are all closed, and he's running, help me. And I see a gang chasing him. I said, get behind me, come here. He runs over, and he stood behind. I said, stand behind me. What am I gonna do? Who knows? I'm gonna die with you, but you will not die alone. I refuse. That's a part of me. So I'm like, stand behind me. And he did, but as they got closer and closer, he panicked and he ran. And then shots fired. And I hear these bullets whizzing by my ear. They actually, like in the movie, they make a sound. Ding, ding. There's this bizarre sound going through the windows behind the building we were standing at. He ran, he took a shot in the leg. But I have no regret for that. I'd do it again tomorrow. What are you going to do? Let someone believe they're alone? No, it's not going to happen on my watch. It's just not my style. I stood against my dad when he was rude to hippies back in the 60s. I stood up against these other, examples of incidents, groups, experiences, whatever it might be. I stood up against the admins at a school when they were abusing kids at my kids' school. Absolutely. And I know that they're like, oh, there he is. When I show up the next day at school, I know they don't like me and I don't care. But let me make this clear. When I say I stand up, I don't make a scene. I don't make it about me. I have something to say. I don't run for office. It's just wherever you are, how can I be helpful? And it could be with standing by anybody. These are God's children. How can I be helpful today? And we all have to, think about that. And I do this 24/7. And people will say, so listen, Michael, we're friends, we're buddies. A few of us are going to come by, let's go up for a hike. I have sessions to do. Well, why don't you ever, and I've heard it all. Oh, you're workaholic. Thank you for sharing. Get out. I'm not, you must understand. This is exactly like Jesus was saying. I'm the Christ, nothing's going to deter me from that. Well, I'm saying it in my own, and you have to say it in your own. Here's what I'm about. Own it. You got to know that tree and stop expecting the wrong things from it. What are you? Who are you? I'm creative. Then just own that. I'm not saying don't do anything else, but own that you're creative. If you have post-trauma, own it. Sometimes I get overwhelmed and I space out. Forgive me, please. Own that. It's not bad. Well, it's a negative, but it's true. For now, you get easily overwhelmed. You help people to love you and feel compassion for you when you're honest about it. When you don't want to see it and then you stuff it and react to it, you're not helping. You're actually creating more problems for yourself. So check in, tune in. Like, what are you about? And, what are you here to do? You're creative. Own that, like I said to my daughter that time. To be helpful. People will say, well, do you ever, I've never been on a vacation in my life. I've never taken a single stinking day off work because this is me. This isn't what I do. And when you really start to own your soul's purpose, you understand it's not a thing you do. It's who you are. And you should ask yourself today, am I still doing a soul's purpose or am I this thing? And it's not good or bad. It's just, I'm saying, everyone will gradually integrate and become from the doer to the beer. And it's like, wow, this is, listen, I'll rest when I'm dead. I'm good. I don't need a vacation. I've never thought, oh my God, if only I had, I don't even like holidays. I don't. I'm like, I don't get it. But I still work on holidays. I still do sessions. I just had to adapt it. Nobody else does. I heard this voice. It said, forgive them. They know not what they do. They're on philosophy, they're on holiday again. So if you want to heal, if you want to be a healer, you have to know who you are. If you want to become Christed, you want to be fifth dimension, you can't. If you still don't know who you are, you have to know the broken self inside and out, and then get to know the risen self inside and out. That's what has to happen. Know thyself is the, axiom. But do you? And a lot of us try to assemble pieces of this and that and think I know myself. It's no. Thoroughly. Do you know what triggers you have? Do you know why? Do you know that before you became impatient, do you know that something happens before that happened? Maybe the word overwhelm triggers you to become impatient. Do you know that? No, I don't. I just trigger. See, you're still reactive. If you want to wake up, if you want to be Christed and higher dimensional, you can't just go, I accidentally have emotions. Come on. Step up a bit more. Step up. Know yourself. What happens when you feel slighted? What happens when you feel thrown under the bus? What happens when you feel ignored? Well, when I'm ignored, people aren't respecting me. See, there's a trigger when you're not feeling respected. Do you think you can do that to God? Is God up in the sky somewhere going, I'm feeling so ignored? God's like, I am that I am. And we're like, down doing all these weird things. I believe, I don't believe, I kind of believe, semi-believe. I'll believe if I get this and I get my way. Just total craziness. And God's just holding. And I'm saying, and you and I, in our own way, have to find that and tether ourselves to that center. Who are you? But it's a lot to ask. And it's a lot to put on yourself. Because if you go, I love this talk. I get it. I'm going to start tethering myself. You know what's going to happen? As soon as you if you make mistakes, you're going to judge yourself. No. You're not getting it if you still judge. Just recenter. And you will mess up and then recenter. And you will be tempted. I'm hungry and, I need some food. Just come back to center. But eat. See, I'm feeling hungry. Here I go. Don't just eat. Say to yourself, I get it. I don't even have a body. This is about me feeling hungry for God. Come back to what? God. Then eat. Is that a contradiction? It isn't, because you centered and ate. Bring a centered self to intimacy. Bring a centered self to mowing the lawn. You're going to do human things. When you try to be hyper spiritual and deny the human things, it's fake, and you're going to pay the price. Or the opposite, ignore the importance of human things, and now you're still caught up in this world. To be in the world, not of the world. It's just stellar if you think about it. Just beautiful. And we got to practice this with the whole world. Let it go. We know that the world is starting to lose its identification as mortals. You know how I know that? Because human beings, remember I said the relationships, how to get to know something? Step 2 was what? Ask questions. People are starting to ask questions. It's way too many of them are going with the lies of politics. Way too much deception. Why are they going with it? Because they're afraid of saying there might be a problem here. And you know what's going to happen after? If you ask a question, you might get an answer. I don't want that. So I'll just go along with whatever this group is telling me. But there are some of us. There's a rising number of light workers throughout the world that are more and more questioning the reality of this. I will no longer just do something because somebody says this works. It works or it doesn't. Question it. Jesus says in so many texts of Christ consciousness, learn to question this world. He says in A Course in Miracles, when I told you, ye must be as children to enter the kingdom of heaven. You know what he says? He says, let me explain what I meant. You need to learn to question this world because it's lying to you. He says, be like children who say, Mommy, what's that? Mommy, what's it? Human adults think, I don't have to ask. I already know everything. Danger, Will Robinson. No, he would never do that. Least of all with my best friend or whatever, you know. And it happens. Heartbreak. Retire everybody from needing to be that perfection for you. It's already here. I know this is a tough ideal to propose, but we're all going in that direction, the easy way or the hard way. That's all. And the world is changing, but it gets worse before it gets better because all the lies have to collapse. So science and medicine have to prove their lack of value. Politics have to prove their lack of value. Economics, all of it's proving their lack of value. I'm not saying it's never had a value or it's never been important on some level. It isn't God. If you think economy is your savior, you're mistaken, and now economy has to crash to prove that it isn't what you thought it was. There is but God, and we're part of God. So I'm fine. I don't have to have or need a partner to make me feel whole. But I can identify with my true self, and oh my God, then it's really cool. Because then it's like, oh my God, I just feel so complete and so good. You're still going to want to share that with other people. But it's not, I want to go to them to get it. You see the difference? I'm in it, offering to share it. That still has its challenges. Wow. I'd love to share this with somebody. They could still be coming back and mirroring, oh, I would love to share that with you. Are you sane? Yes. Are you healthy? Yes. Are you interdependent? Yes. You know, and one date later, you know, you didn't call me yesterday. You don't love me. You lied to me. I don't know. Where are the flowers? Where are the candies? You know, I'm sorry, I'm going back into post-trauma, you know. Sadly, those things can happen, and it hurts and confuses. Do your best. Let them know what kind of tree you are, what kind of fruit to expect. This is what I'm about. And they still sometimes won't listen. You know, it's going to happen that way. I know some of you are like, yeah, I did going to the spiritual center on Sunday, and then one day you find somebody, you meet somebody, and they're like, oh, this is great. And it happens, trust me, all the time. Somebody's like totally into the growing and being part of this group, and then they meet somebody. Well, they were kind of jealous about me going to the center. They thought, you know, I need to join their religion and I need to go and do hikes and that's their religion. So we're into six packs and red rocks, you know. You know, and I just go, that's great. Inside, I'm like, oh. I shouldn't tell you these things because then you're like, next time you go, Michael, here's some hummus or whatever I got from the granola store for you. And, you know, now you're going to be like, oh. You'll know inside. I'm like, oh. But outside, I'm like, oh, that was so thoughtful. But I'm just telling you, honestly, all I do is take that kind of stuff and walk it in and give it to the admins. They eat that stuff. They do. For me, Please take a few centering breaths. Just decompress the tensions of the body and the mind. You're not wrong for looking, feeling, thinking as a human being. It's not bad. It's just not accurate. You're a spiritual being. Your soul knows mathematics that are beyond this world's comprehension, geometry beyond. It knows wholeness beyond. It knows affection way beyond any human form of affection. It knows health and wellness far greater than any preachy diet. There's a part of us that really does identify with the everything. Even in this universe, we can still be plugged into all that we ever need to know. New science, new math, new biology, new relations, a new version of everything. But it can't happen. We can't get there by our own efforts and conjuring. Let go, let God. Soak in anything that has felt of value to you today. Let it be true for you. Let it become your belief. It does you no good to hear it from someone saying it if it doesn't become yours. And we'll sit for a moment meditating on these words. I am not a body. I am free and remain as God created me. I am not a body. I am free and I remain as God created me. I am not a body. I am free. What does that feel like? I am free. And I remain as God created me. You can repeat it more if you like, and or for half a minute, add something to the end. For I remain as God created me, loved and loving, peaceful, joyous. Add something on your own quietly. And then 30 seconds imagining anyone you know, anyone you've bumped into recently, just strangers for that matter, acquaintances, best friends, family members. You are not a body. You are free. And you remain as God created you. Say it to the sick, those who have passed away, those with financial issues, emotional struggles, relationship issues. This is what it means to bless people. It has two parts. You're denying their former beliefs and you're affirming the new, the real beliefs that they can be holding. And until they do, you're holding it for them. I know this to be true. You cannot die. You cannot be sick. I'm not wronging you for that experience. I'm saying here's the good news. The real you is radiant. And I will never know my radiance without affirming yours. one last time to yourself. I am not a body. I am free. For I remain as God created me. Gradually come back to the room. And some of us were affirming, what would that look like? I am free, for I remain as God created me, such as free and joyous and a healthy partnership and so on. Right? You had some of those thoughts, yes? Yes? Now look around the room. Look around the room. And repeat out loud, my beloved, your prayers have been answered. And so it is. Good. Yeah. Thank you so much. We're going to do our closing prayer in just a moment. Before we do, we will take up our collection. Take your time. And please just be as generous as you can be. We appreciate it. Donations go in the bags that come around, your standard donations. The wicker baskets are for any extra donations, like from people of lesser means or for special projects and so forth, okay? And just a quick note on that. You know, we appreciate that everybody's as generous as they are, and we appreciate we've picked up the donations to fix the roof on the building. It's all been redone. So thank you for the generous donations, yes. And the fantastically good karma those of you who have, you know, for praying for support and those who paid. Pay or pray, we're good either way. Wow. Yeah. So, but do your best to be generous. It's not just a sentence. We ask you to do that. We have the 3D world, the 3D bills to pay, and so on. So it very much, you know, we appreciate your help in that area. In the last year, donations are just, you know, gradually coming up. And people online that aren't even in the room are donating as much as everybody that is in the room. It's great that they're taking part, you know, and stepping like being part. They're not like, well, nobody can see me, so, you know. Everybody's playing a part, those online as well as here. But there, you know, there are times, there are months where donations really weaken, and we're just asking you to continue being as generous as you can be. So take your love offering to your heart. And with deep sincerity, the prayer is posted online, but also on the papers in front of you in the seat backs. Together, please. Divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And so it is. Thank you so much. While they're passing the baskets around, here's a couple quick announcements. Remember, the way you can donate, and we're making this point to everybody because we need to see some changes, because the last couple of months, donations have gone down quite a bit. Even though attendance is big and on all that, it just happens sometimes. But you can donate on Sundays. You can do one-off spontaneous donations. You can become consistent tither or monthly sponsor, where you get to see exactly where you want your funds to go, landscaping or to musicians that we have and so on. The chaplains are available after service. They do an overall prayer for healing. You can sit and receive, or just sit and hold space and add to the prayers. Those of you who ask, every so often I'll mention I do private sessions, phone or Zoom, depending on if you're in the country or out. But I do sessions. And if you want, you can go on my website, michaelmirdad.com, read more about them. But typically it's life guidance, counseling. Sometimes it's acting as a muse to give people ideas and inspirations. But go read. It's a lot more online. You can read about it. And reminding you, our bookstore, Things are about 30% less than typical stores in town. So it saves you a lot to get items here, all right? Social media, if you're online watching, be sure to like and so forth, whatever those things are that you can do there to help support. And if you ever post things on YouTube or Facebook, as concise as you can, it would be appreciated, especially if you ever email me. I don't know how to type, so I have to, so somebody can write me a book and it's going to be good to hear. I don't type, so that's, my mind works well, this doesn't. So I remember they tried to put me in typing class in school, and it was great because the teacher would walk around and I just did this. And she would walk by and assume that it's all working out. I was only there, I think, 2 weeks, and then I had to get out. But we have gift bags in the bookstore. There's 2 types I'll share with you. One, it'll have a book of mine for just like $20 or whatever it is. A book, incense holder, a gift card. It comes with several things in one paper package. So those are in the bookstore. You can ask them. But there's one specific pre-wrapped package of books. It's my 3 books related to intimacy and or relationships. So if you have young ones, married couple, you give them to them, or for yourself, or give it to anybody you date. Might as well get to the point, Look, read this. There'll be questions later. Dating follows A+. But anyway, we have those pre-wrapped in there. Can anyone share what they learned or heard today that made the most sense or that can be helpful in your life? Yes?
Bringing the ascension to intention. It always begins within us.
Yeah, really. Ascension, make it an internal process. Yes?
Always come back to the center.
Always come back to the center. And however you do that, on your knees next to your bed like a child, in prayer position, sitting, hand mudras and lotus position, whatever. While you're driving, while you're sleeping, whatever, keep surrendering to the love of God and guidance of God to help you in all things. Yes?
To the best of my ability, see life as a we instead of an I.
Practice seeing life. It is a we. We're in this together. And it's strange to think somebody occasionally thinks of someone else's needs. That's bizarre to me. Although it's much to the chagrin of people around me. I had kids and mind you, I didn't neglect them. But there were moments where it's like, 24/7, man. I have sessions overseas. It's day and night. I'm working. And they went through their time where they're like, where are you, man? And I was there, close with them. But there were times when that would show up. And I would say, hey, here's my heartfelt advice. Next time, choose a different father. Tomatoes are flying at me. Wow. Folks online, they actually booed a little on that one. Never had that before. No, I wouldn't say such a thing, but it's true that they knew this is what I'm here to do. Jesus, where were you? Did you not know I'd be about my Father's business? He's talking to Mother Mary, right? How dare you speak to Mother Mary that way? He's like, what? I'm just saying it like it is. What would confuse you, Mom, Dad? Why would you look? What are you going to look in a bar? Where do you think I'm going to be? So this is me. And so I was loving and tactful about it. And I was very there with them on so many levels, close with them. But priorities were still there. And if I get a call from somebody in an emergency, that's what I'm doing. And they get it. They get it. People in your life need to get it. They need to see someone who's devoted to living the light, bringing the light of God into this world. They might say, but honey, I'm your partner. I need you here more. And let them look at that. You know, let's talk about it. Let's compromise. But do know, God comes first. Have that mantra in your life, in your being, in your cells. God first in all things. Like I said, I'm not saying you have to do it to my level. I'm like, hey, I'll rest when I'm dead. I'm good with this. But I never have had a doubt about that. Where you have doubts, you're not fully integrated in that area, so sit with it, work on it, give yourself more time, or whatever you need. Take care of yourself. But who are you? And then ask others a little more, often. Well, what are you about? Stop getting all disrupted by them. Well, I didn't know they were like that. Then you didn't ask enough questions. Well, they told me one thing and they were another. Then where's the ask God to help guide the relationship? You know, we all slip a little bit. But where's the love? Where's the patience? If anybody is not a responsible, if they're not healthy and mature spiritually and psychologically, I don't care what they look like. If they're not healthy spiritually and psychologically, you're going into a battleground. You're going into a danger zone. You know, go for that healthiness. How do you know if the ability to take responsibility is a huge sign of whether a person is mature spiritually and psychologically? Because they don't go to the default of, oh, I'm so amazed and so amazing and I'm so aware and it's your fault that you didn't do this. That's all contradiction. When people are growing, they realize everything's a mirror of my experience inside. Oops, I must have missed that one. Oops, there's one. That's an old pattern of mine. Bring it here and heal it. Okay? Be responsible. But bring the love. And I hope you guys didn't mind my sharing that piece of, like I said, in my own life. That's how I've been. If anybody knows me, they would know that. When I went and saw one person I think I've ever seen after high school, one person that I knew in high school. And I went and they said, you got to see my mom. Oh my God, she'd be so happy to see you. When they said, what do you do for a living? I don't say, I'm a spiritual teacher, man. I try to keep things simple. I said, a counselor. Because I am. But I didn't say the rest. Because don't cast pearls before swine. So it's a figure of speech. Back off. So when they said, and I said, counselor, you know what the woman said? Oh, that makes total sense. She knew me in 11th grade. And her mind immediately went, totally. People should be able to see your goodness. It should be obvious. It should be apparent. Be that such and such that actually cares. Be the politician that asks questions and says, I don't have policies other than yours. What is it you want me to do? Because I'm a public servant. What do you want me to do? You see? Rather than pretending I care and then doing what I want. And it's the same in any category, just care and love for people. And oh my God, what it does for us energetically, in consciousness, karmically, and so on. Is all that been making sense? Yeah. Could you guys relate? And okay, I'm glad to hear that. Well, thank you for letting me share that piece. Please stand for our closing prayer. Did anybody else feel compelled to share what they experienced in the meditation? Or I can't always see, guys, because the lights and, we good?
Prayer pay.
What is it? Yeah, pray or pay. Yeah, very cool. That's a good one. Feeling, just soak in the gratitude. Just 5 days away, we have the Daughters of Heaven conference. If you're not already signed up, please do so. It's the most extraordinary event I've ever experienced. Right here in Sedona. You can watch it online or be here in person. We feel such gratitude for everyone sitting around us and throughout the building. Feel it. Feel sincere gratitude for everyone watching online, even if they watch this years from now. There is no time and distance. You're right here with us. We're sorry if you're struggling in any way. We're there with you. We got it. We're holding space for you. Soak the love through time and distance into wherever you're sitting in your living room. Our love, our gratitude is absolutely full. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we go, God is, I am, we are, and so it is. Thank you, and peace be with you.